Madam Mayor, do you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So you didn't hear my introduction. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. We'd hope you'd be here live, but we appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and to do our induction. And hopefully, after the induction, you'll give us a few words on the state of Stanford and maybe what your plans are moving forward. And then we'll do some question and answer after that. So with that, I would like to introduce Ira Bernstein, who's the secretary of Simmons Association, who will do the honors for the induction.
Okay. Thank you, Stu. There are very few changes on the board. In fact, only one. So what I'd like to do, first of all, Ed Roloff, he's here today. He's leaving the board, and we want to thank him for his great input. Will all the officers and directors please stand? Mayor, I think you have something to say now.
Yes, you gentlemen have done your work well and devoted many hours to arranging meetings and following through with the myriad duties and functions of the Senior Men's Association of Stanford. Thank you so much for your time and efforts. Let's please give them all a round of applause.
You may be seated. I'm now going to introduce the new officers and directors. As I call your name and office, please come forward and start to assemble in front here so that a picture can be taken at the conclusion. Our president, Joe Andriana. Vice President, first Vice President, Stu Madison. Second Vice President for Activities, Howie Breslow. Assistant Vice President, Trips and Tours, Alan Krim. He's not here. Immediate Past President, John Cullen. Treasurer, Brian McDermott. Assistant Treasurer, Lloyd Contract. Secretary, me, Ira Bernstein. Assistant Secretary, Carl Shapiro. Membership Director, Carl Funch. Fellowship Director, David Kaplan. Audiovisual Director, John Sedlak. Communications Director, Steve Fisher. He's not here. Publicity Director, Dick Fisher. Recruitment Director, Lou Terry. Director at Large, Al Alperti. Also, Director at Large, Jerry Kranz. Mayor, that concludes the introduction of the new officers and board.
Wonderful. On your shoulders rests considerable responsibility, and the success of this association depends greatly on your leadership and efforts. If okay with you, I will now administer the oath of office. Please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, and say your name, declare that I am willing to accept the responsibilities of the office. I, and state your name.
I missed it. Everybody duly sworn in?
Declare that I am willing to accept the responsibilities of the office
Yeah, responsibility of the office.
to which I have been elected.
Gee,
I further declare that I will,
I declare that I will.
to the best of my ability,
Right?
perform the duties of my position
Position
as outlined in the management manual
you say the word.
of the Senior Men's Association of Stamford.
Simmons Association of Stamford.
Congratulations, and you may lower your hands.
Okay.
If we were in person, I would have the pleasure of handing the gavel of authority to the incoming president. While I can't do that, I can advise you to use your gavel judiciously and wish you a successful term in office. Thank you so much for your service to the city and the Senior Men's Association of Stamford, and I declare you now duly installed and congratulate all the new officers and directors. It's right.
Madam Mayor, thank you for the hybrid installation, being with us today. I want to thank all members of the Senior Men's Association for the trust that they put in me and my fellow officers to lead the organization through the next year. Really appreciate your support. And now, I turn the meeting over to you. And, or Stu, do you want, is there a further introduction? Okay, Stu will proceed with a further introduction.
Thanks, Joe. By way of an introduction, Caroline Simmons is now the new mayor of Stamford, Connecticut, as we all know, effective on the 1st of December. A Democrat who has served as a state representative since 2015. She's promised to make school renovations, infrastructure improvements, and government efficiency her priorities in leading Connecticut's second largest and fastest growing city in Connecticut. Mayor Simpson has a BA in government from Harvard University and an MBA and an MA, master's degree in Middle Eastern Studies from Elliott School of International Affairs at Georgetown University. She also studied at the American University in Cairo, Egypt, and the Arabic Language Institute in Fez, Morocco. After graduating from Harvard in 2008, Mayor Simpson worked for Barack Obama's first-term presidential campaign. The former president endorsed her campaign, and later she served in a counterterrorism role in the Department of Homeland Security. On a personal side, Mayor Simmons was the president of her high school, captain of her 3 varsity sports, and a 2-time All-American lacrosse player. Mayor Simpson and her husband, Art Linares, live in Stamford, and are proud parents of 2 sons, Teddy and Jack. During her campaign, Mayor Simpson announced that she and her husband are expecting a 3rd child, we congratulate her on that. After winning the November election, she said, "Today, voters embrace the belief that we can emerge stronger from this pandemic if we work together, support each other, lift each other up with kindness and love, and united around a common goal. We can make Stamford a city of opportunity for everyone." My own opinion, I believe that there is one phrase that summarizes Mayor Simpson's body of work throughout her career. It would be public service, for this seems to be the driving motivation that makes her tick. So Mayor Stamford, Mayor Caroline Simmons, please go ahead and tell us all about what's going on in Stamford and what you're thinking is going to happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you to the Senior Men's Association of Stamford for hosting me today. I'm honored to be with all of you and wish we could be there in person together, but grateful for the opportunity to connect with you. And again, want to congratulate all the new officers and members, and just thank you for your service and all the work you do through this organization. I couldn't be more honored to get to be mayor of this wonderful city and to get to connect with you all today. And I thought that I would start by just sharing sort of an update on our first now over 30 days in office, and give you some updates on COVID-19, which has really taken the bulk of our time, but as well as update you on other priorities that we've been working on related to infrastructure, education, improving our schools, as well as support for seniors and things that we're looking at this budget cycle, and then just overall how we can improve quality of life for residents, and then really eager to hear your feedback. Yes, we're sharing our screen. I just want to make sure you can see us okay. Okay, great. Yes, looks like we can. So I'll start with just an update on COVID-19. I know this is on all of our minds, and we're all tired of this pandemic and hoping to be out of this very soon. But of course, we are still right in the middle of it with the contagious Omicron variant. We have seen a spike in cases in Stamford and across the state and across the country, as well as an increase in hospitalizations. And tragically, just to give a sense of the impact, there's been 830,000 fatalities in the US, 9,300 fatalities in Connecticut, and tragically 339 individuals we've lost in our city in Stamford. So just want to take a moment to recognize those we've lost, pay tribute to them, and also just thank the community and all of our first responders and healthcare workers for all the work and devotion during this difficult period, and really this once in a century pandemic that we've been experiencing. Next, just want to give you an update on the latest on data. So we currently have a 40% positivity rate that we're seeing in Stamford. This is nearly as high as the 50% positivity rate we saw back in February of 2020. So this is probably the highest spike we've seen in the past year and a half. And so because of that, we're taking this very seriously, wanting to do everything we can to stop the spread, to reduce this positivity rate and reduce the number of hospitalizations. The good news is, while the Omicron variant is on the rise and more contagious, it's much less deadly and severe than Delta. And we're not seeing the high death rate that we saw 2 years ago. So we are in a much better place. Another good news thing is vaccinations. We are the second most vaccinated city in the state. We're just after West Hartford. So I want to thank all of you for doing your part to get vaccinated, because that's helped enormously in reducing the severity of symptoms. We know that 75% of individuals who are in our hospital or ICU right now are individuals who are unvaccinated. So everyone that has done their part to get vaccinated and boosted has really helped significantly drop the number of hospitalizations and the death rate that we saw previously. Wanted to just give an update on testing and masks. We did put back in place the indoor mask mandate on December 21st. I know this is, again, not where we want it to be. Everyone is tired of wearing masks, but based on health expertise from Stanford Health, the CDC, and our State Department of Public Health. We put this back in place because we know this is one of the best ways to stop the spread and protect individuals who are high risk. So we thank you for bearing with us with this mandate and for wearing your mask indoors. And we're hopeful that if we can all hang in there a little longer, come February, we'll start to see a drop in cases and we can look at revisiting lifting the mandate. I also want to give an update on testing. We know that there's been a surge in demand for testing. And this past Sunday, January 2nd, we distributed approximately 20,000 COVID-19 at-home rapid tests to stop the spread of COVID-19. There was a big rush, after the holidays, people wanting to get tested, as well as due to the increase in case rates. So for that first batch, we prioritize individuals who are high risk or most vulnerable, as well as individuals over 65. We did receive a second batch yesterday for our K through 12 school system, and then we're receiving another batch this week, and we'll continue to prioritize high-risk individuals, at home bound seniors, and other individuals with high-risk conditions. We've also worked to double our testing capacity in the city across all of our sites, and you can find more information at our sites at stanfordct.gov. The big one we have open is at Cove Island. But then we also have sites at 6 other pharmacies across Stanford. Some of them are appointment only, so be sure to check the website to learn more about requirements. And then just as of late last night, we were able to get final approvals to open up a new testing site at Fairway Market down in the South End. So stay tuned for more information on that. And please reach out to us anytime at mayor's office at stanfordct.gov if we can help you or your family with any information you need on testing, vaccinations, or any other questions you have related to COVID. We are here to serve you. I want to do everything we can to protect our seniors. So next, I wanted to give an economic outlook for Stanford. This is some good news amidst this pandemic. We are actually doing really well in terms of our economy. We've seen an influx of residents and businesses coming to our city and substantial economic growth. These are some examples of just some great companies that have come to the city. Digital Currency Group, one of the largest fintech companies, just relocated from New York to Stanford, and they're going to be creating 300 new jobs. Also, I know we heard the negative news about 8 years ago on GE leaving the state, but luckily part of GE is back. GE launched a co-creation center in Stanford. So they brought back a small appliance manufacturer to Connecticut to provide hands-on educational opportunities and an innovative community makerspace. And then other companies, including Philip Morris, Tomo, Webster Bank, have all relocated in the past year. So this is just some positive news coming out of the pandemic that we're seeing an influx of businesses. I think a big reason for this too is a lot of businesses are looking to leave the larger cities like New York City and Boston, and putting Stanford as a smaller tier city at an advantage to be able to continue to attract businesses and jobs. Unfortunately, we do still have about a 6% unemployment rate in our city, so we're working very hard on workforce development initiatives for our unemployed residents to help individuals get back to work. And throughout the pandemic, we worked very closely with the State Department of Labor on getting unemployment benefits for residents who are unemployed. So if you need more information on any of that, feel free to contact the mayor's office. And then this is just an example of all of our tremendous companies that we have in Stanford, and also a robust small business and entrepreneurial ecosystem that we're working to support, because we know our small businesses have been hurt especially hard during this pandemic. In terms of our upcoming priorities, I just wanted to share some highlights of things that we're working on. First and foremost, just focusing on senior citizens. We know that Stanford is becoming an increasingly expensive place to live, with increasing property taxes, the high cost of living here. And we want to do everything we can to make Stanford a more affordable place for our seniors. So one thing we're looking at this budget cycle is expanding the senior property tax credit program, which hasn't been updated since 2015. So we're looking at expanding the income levels for who's eligible, as well as increasing the tax abatement amount for our seniors. We know, especially seniors who are on a fixed income and just with rising costs of inflation, that it's going to be a difficult winter ahead. So we'll keep everyone posted on the work we're doing to work to expand the tax credit program. In terms of other affordable housing in Stamford, we're also just taking inventory of all of Stamford senior housing, making sure we're doing everything we can to increase the supply of affordable housing for seniors. And we're also looking to establish a Stamford Housing Advisory Council that we would welcome your input on, because we're going to be putting together stakeholders to advise the mayor's office on how we can expand housing opportunities. For diversity and inclusion, we're working on hiring the city's first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, looking at ways we can make our city a more equitable and prosperous place for all of our residents. With respect to small businesses, we're doing everything we can to make Stamford a better city to start a business and to support our small businesses here. One thing we hear a lot of complaints about is the permitting process and how long the wait time can be just to get a permit to start up in Stamford. Whether it's a permit for your home or a permit for your small business. So we're looking at expediting the permitting process for our city's local businesses as well as for homeowners. And we'll keep everyone posted on that in the coming months. For veterans, we want to do everything we can to support our veterans who've given so much to our state and country. So one thing we heard from our Veterans Transition Committee is that there's not enough information on what resources are available for veterans. So we're looking at updating the website with more guidance on what resources are available, as well as better communicating with our veteran community, as well as welcoming new veterans that move to our city so that they know all the programs that are in place to support them. Health equity is another big priority. Obviously, COVID-19 is the bulk of our focus right now when it comes to public health, but we're also looking at a lot of the underlying conditions that led to adverse health outcomes, whether it was hypertension, diabetes, obesity, or other health conditions that led to high death rates we saw, particularly for minority populations in Stamford. So we're looking at creating a chronic disease health task force for the city so we can look at addressing some of those underlying health conditions in the city. And then on the environment, we want to make sure we're doing our part now as the second largest city to reduce our carbon emissions and to be a leader on the environment so we can make our city and state a better place for future generations. So we're looking to establish a mayor's climate council, working to reduce our carbon footprint and other sustainability initiatives. And then I should also add, as part of our environment, we're looking at major infrastructure investments in our city, both to make our infrastructure more resilient to the effects of climate change with rising sea levels and the effect of storms like Hurricane Ida and the flooding that we saw, looking at making our infrastructure more resilient. And we have an enormous opportunity right now with the federal infrastructure package that passed. Connecticut can expect to receive approximately $6 billion in the next couple months to upgrade our infrastructure. And this will be for everything from our roads to our bridges, to our sidewalks, to resiliency efforts like seawalls. And so we want to make sure we are ready as a city to take advantage of this historic funding coming to our city and upgrade our infrastructure. So stay tuned on that. And we will be announcing in the coming weeks our plan for road paving. We plan to double the amount of roads we want to pave, increase support for sidewalk repair. So please let us know if there's a road or sidewalk in your neighborhood that needs repair. We want to hear from you and make sure that we're doing everything we can to improve our infrastructure for our residents. Great. So those are just some high-level updates, and I'll just close by saying it's been just such an honor and privilege to get to serve as mayor. It's only been 30 days, but I absolutely love the job so far. It's incredibly rewarding to get to walk into this building every day and to get to work on policies to make our city work better for residents. And one of our biggest priorities is to make our city government more responsive to you, to listen to your feedback and concerns, and to do everything we can to get back to you in a timely manner and to address concerns you have. So please reach out to me personally anytime. Our email is mayorsoffice@stanfordct.gov. And I'll say that again, it's mayorsoffice@stanfordct.gov. We want to hear from you if you have an issue or concern, or if we can better serve you or your family, please let us know. And we're also open to feedback and ideas. We just are in the process of posting our 10 transition committee policy reports on things that we're looking to accomplish in our first 100 days and our first year in office. But we welcome your input too, particularly if there's priority issues for the Senior Men's Association of Stamford on things we can work together or ways we can better serve you. We want to hear from you. And so with that, I will stop talking because I want to open it up to you for your feedback and questions. And thank you again for having me today.
Mayor, thank you. Thank you very much for all that information. And let me fix Joe's glasses here. And for telling us your view of the immediate future. So if you guys have questions, go to the microphone over there. You're right. And I'll walk away from this mic and go over there. Maybe just speaking to both at one time.
Madam Mayor, I'm wondering, you mentioned about infrastructure work.
Hang on.
Does Stanford have a master plan for the next 10, 20 years?
She's not hearing you. Say it again.
Oh, okay. Madam Mayor, you mentioned about infrastructure. Wondering whether or not the city of Stanford has a master plan for tackling, let's say, Long Island Sound, level rise and its accompanying rivers and streams backing up, other infrastructure problems.
Yes, thank you for that question. So we are currently in the process in our capital budget. We have put in $500,000 to do essentially what you're saying, an assessment of our water infrastructure, including our storm drains, the ones that were over flooded during Hurricane Ida. So we are in the process of conducting that assessment, working with our engineering department. And with respect to Long Island Sound, yes, we are working on that as well. We actually passed at the state level 2 years ago, the Long Island Sound Blueprint, which we can share with all of you. And that includes doing everything we can to protect the sound from an environmental perspective, but also looking at from a resiliency perspective and rising sea levels, the need to bolster our infrastructure there because our sea levels are expected to rise by 5 to 10 feet over the next decade. And then there's also significant funding in the federal infrastructure package that's going to be coming down to our city for water infrastructure in particular. So I really appreciate your question because this is an area that we're going to be focusing on for our city to make sure we're prepared for both adverse climate impact on our water infrastructure and making sure it's resilient, but also looking at on Long Island Sound, protecting the sound from an environmental perspective.
Mayor Simmons, thank you again for being with us. Thank you again for being with us today. Have for a request possibly. We all saw what happened last Saturday with the masks, and I was talking to a number of our members, and some of them got caught up in that and just couldn't take it. And by the age of our group, we're not kids anymore to hang around. I was wondering, since you're going to get, I read today that the new supply of masks or test kits and masks are going to come to Stanford. Is it possible to maybe allocate and have one of us or get them to us so that we can distribute the masks and test kits to our members here at our next meeting, or as soon as possible after that? Just a thought, and it would help mitigate. I mean, we get 60 or 70 people, that's 70 cars that wouldn't be lined up again.
Yes, thank you for that suggestion. And I'm sitting here with our chief of staff, our director of operations, and our director of administration. We are taking notes on that. We will take that back to our public safety director and see if we can allocate a certain amount for you all. So we appreciate that suggestion. And thank you for your patience with last Saturday. We know there was such demand and not enough supply, so we appreciate your patience. And I think that's a great idea to reserve a certain amount. So we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you very much, Joe.
And I apologize that I have to step out for another meeting, but I've asked our cabinet to be here. So you've got the best team here to answer questions. So know that you're in good hands and they will be listening.
Thank you,
to your
Mayor.
feedback.
Don't forget the mask.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good morning.
Good morning. As you know, the proposal to change zoning on Long Ridge Road to make the office parks residential areas has been controversial. It's been moved to the Board of Representatives. What is the city administration's viewpoint on that?
So we were in support of the text change, and really that stems from the idea that we're well aware that office parks in the future are just going to be very different post-pandemic. And we see this as an opportunity for affordable housing opportunities for employees that come into the community. We are well aware of concerns around overdevelopment, and that is not our intention at all with this text chain. It was really designed for smart development, but being cognizant of the fact that we're going to have to be creative about what these office park uses will look like in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, I work with the Red Cross and we respond to, fires and floods and situations to provide temporary assistance to people that are affected by tragedy. One of the issues that's been a problem for Stamford, unlike other communities, we apparently don't have a fund in Stamford available to help these people beyond what the Red Cross does, which is really meant to get them through the first day or two. I was wondering if you could speak to if there's a plan or thought about providing a fund, help these people with longer term temporary housing to respond to tragedies and some more money to assist them.
Do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
No, I never heard that request before, but it's a great request.
It's a great request. We are in agreement. So I had not heard that request before, but certainly something we will consider. Thank you for that concept.
Thank you.
Mr. Al, talking to both.
Thank you. Question on testing for us. If we're over 65, have no symptoms, how often, if at all, should we get tested?
Good question. And I'm not the medical expert, but I feel I have a degree after sitting in all of these briefings over the past few months. The answer to that is if you are asymptomatic and you have not had close contact with a COVID positive person, you do not need to test.
Even if we're over 65?
Even if you're over 65.
Thank you.
Any other questions? John? Oh, Mr. Lloyd, go ahead.
I was wondering on the testing issue, how many false positives have you had with the PCR testing that you know of? Because I understand that the high centrifugation rates that they're using for the analysis of the PCR gives a lot of false positives. And I was just wondering what the experience of Stanford has been so that I can guide myself.
That I don't have an answer to. On the false positive question. I can certainly see if the hospital or the health department has any further data on that.
Can the three of you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, thank you. I am Bridget Fox. I am the mayor's chief of staff.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to just take this down to be able to speak clearly here. Matthew Quinones. I am director of operations as of Monday. So very excited to join the mayor's team. Prior to which I served as the president for the Board of Representatives. The operations department has a broad list of functions that it oversees, ranging from the building department to recreation, parks, facilities, fleet management, land use, engineering, and highways, just to give you a sense of the responsibilities that it encompasses. So thank you for the invitation, and anything related to those functions, I'm happy to try and address it. If I don't have the answer for you today, definitely commit to following up.
And I'm Sandy Denise. I'm the Director of Administration. Administration is basically those services that keep the city operational. It's tax assessment, tax collections, our accounts payable, our risk management, our budget, and our payroll and our grants office. I've been with the city in my prior life, almost 30 years, and I'm back again for about 2 years now. I live in Stamford. I truly care about the city, and I'm very happy that the mayor has asked me to remain on the team.
Any other questions?
That's it. I was just wondering who was who and what you did. So thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Lloyd's full of questions. Go ahead. Lloyd.
Besides being very loquacious, I have a question. I was wondering, since we had a major change of administrations, how many department heads have been changed so that the philosophy of government will also be changed as new personnel come into office?
Sure, I can answer that question. So in terms of cabinet level positions, you've just met our Director of Operations and our Director of Administration. I know this isn't a department head answer, but in terms of additional appointments to the cabinet, Doug Delana will be joining us as our Director of Legal Affairs, Corporation Counsel. He comes to us from the governor's office in Hartford, and you might remember him as an advocate reporter many years ago here in Stamford. And he'll start with the city on next Monday, the 11th. And then we have our Director of Economic Development, who has yet to be confirmed by the Board of Reps, but her name is Lauren Nadris, and she's coming to us from New York City, where she has been with the New York City's Economic Development Corporation for the past many years, working on both local New York City business development and international business development. And Ted Jankowski is staying in his position as Director of Public Health and Safety. So those are the 5 charter cabinet level positions. We also have Izzy Soboleski. Sorry, I'm bad with his last name. He is our Chief Information Officer. He started under the Martin administration, but is terrific and is staying with us and really focused on IT and cybersecurity for the city. So his addition to the city has been welcome, and I know he's making a lot of systems changes throughout the city, including in partnership with Sandy on revolutionizing our whole ERP system. So there's a lot happening with leadership at the city level. I can say that we've made changes within our cabinet and within the special assistants, so staff to the mayor. She has brought on, I can just mention Janine Freeman is our special assistant for community partnerships and engagement. She comes to us from Fairfield County's Community Foundation. So a long history of working with philanthropy and nonprofits in the community. So the mayor's very interested in maintaining engagement with our nonprofit sector and our philanthropy sector. And we also have Leah Kagan, who's joining us as a special assistant for economic development. Lauren Meyer is our special assistant for legislative policy and affairs, who will be working really focused on our Board of Reps, Board of Education, Board of Finance, really maintaining all of those relationships so that the work and agenda for the city is in alignment with our local officials. So I hear your question on department heads. I don't have answers around changes at this moment, but that's where we are today with change in leadership.
Thank you. Last question.
Over the years, there've been a number of comments by the Stanford administration that Stanford does not get its fair share of tax money allocated from Hartford. It's always been a source of surprise to me because often the governor of the state has been from this area. I was wondering if your reaction to one, is that consistent with your experience that Stanford has been shortchanged, that the Fairfield County kind of supports the rest of the state? And if that is the case, do you see any way of improving that situation under the new administration, which is headed by somebody who has experience in Hartford?
Sure, I'll let Sandy answer the first question and I'll answer the second part.
I agree with you that Stanford has been shortchanged. Stanford is among the top 3 municipalities that provide the most tax dollars to Hartford. And I think the responsiveness from Hartford has not been what we were looking for. I think we were looking for better engagement and better support. And I'm very encouraged by having Caroline as our mayor.
Yeah, so to the second part of the question around the mayor's intention for addressing some of those systematic issues as it relates to Hartford, I know being a part of the delegation will provide an advantage for her with all of her working relationships, both within the delegation and most importantly, up in Hartford on some of relationships with the governor's office and some of the key chairs of the committees up in Hartford to really try to move the needle on that. I will say that because Stanford, just as you all know, became the 2nd largest city in the state based on the latest census data, there is a lot of talk in Hartford about the importance of Stanford. Not that there wasn't before, but for some reason that seems to be a headline that is grabbing attention of Hartford. So I do think we have potential in the coming few years to address some of those systemic ways that Hartford has approached funding Stanford through our education cost sharing formula and other formulas. So stay tuned, but I know that's something that the mayor is really focused on trying to improve.
Thank you very much for the answer. I'd like to thank the mayor and thank you folks for joining in and answering our questions. We really appreciate that. And Happy New Year to you all. And I guess you guys can go back to work.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and thanks for including us.
Thank you.
Thank you.